Hi, my name's Jess Marie. Welcome to yesterday's Coffee Grounds, where I typically talk of things that I'm learning in my life. Don't mind, we have my 4.5-month-old baby just snoring away. We're both pretty sick with a head cold right now, so we're a little bit stuffy. She's snoozing, she's doing her thing, but it does not take away from being out here in the garden where I feel such healing and such growth going on in my life. Last year was our first year that we had our garden set up. We had 5 active garden beds and then a couple pots here and there. And this year we're going to try to do 7, depending on how much we want to take on, because it is a maintenance. Yes, it's growing food, it's amazing, it's beautiful, but there is maintenance that's involved, and not just prepping the garden, but making sure that everything, the ecosystem, the balance of life and soil and everything is just right. Making sure that it is alive, it is living in light and in goodness. Because if we let weeds overtake our garden, it starts with just one weed. Oh, I'm away, I'll let that weed go. And right now I'm surrounded by weeds. There's weeds all over. Right? and you let one weed go and it just consumes. And that's what happened to my strawberries. I was like, okay, I don't know what this is called here, but this here came up and the roots get really deep, and I'm like, I'll let that go. You know, I willingly have dandelions in my strawberries because I let them go, because I harvest the roots and the leaves. I let them go for a season, then uproot them, and then have another handful that I let go for a full season, so that there's a cycle of that. And I'm like, yeah, I just planted this last year, but that's that's gonna be my method of planting our dandelions, because dandelion can be used as medicine, as salves for helping our body. Anyways, I let this, whatever this mystery weed is, grow rampant in our strawberries, and I come to it this year and I'm like, oh my goodness, there are so many of these weeds and they're so deep and it's so frustrating to get them out. So I'm digging them out, uprooting everything, and then I see the disturbance I'm making with the animal life that's in there, the creature life that's in there. So we have the millipedes and the spiders and the soil structure as well. Everything is being affected because I'm putting a tool in and removing part of the ecosystem. And as I'm digging, I'm thinking about the parable of Jesus. And when I have it right here, it's in Matthew 13, and I'm just going to read it because it's going to be better to read it than to try to remember it off the top of my head. So it's the tares among the wheat, and tares are like a weed as well. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while the man slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. But when the grain had sprouted and produced a crop, then the tares also appeared. So the servants of the owner came to him and said, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How does it then have tares? He said to them, An enemy has done this. The servants said to him, Do you want us to go then and gather them up? But he said, No. Lest while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. Let them both grow together until the harvest, and at the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, First gather all the tares, bind them together, burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. And what I hear, I'm in my strawberry patch, and I'm thinking about this parable, and I'm frustrated about the exact same thing that's happening. Is that when I'm trying to get this weed out, the strawberries are also coming out with it as well. And think, like, this is our second year with these strawberries, so I'm really frustrated that they are now being uprooted and disturbed. Oh my gosh, I might sneeze. And thinking about that and just the relationship, I didn't know that it said in this parable, in this passage, that if you uproot the tares, then the wheat will come out as well. But that's exactly what happened to me. And it's just an amazing thing. The lessons that I learn from being in our garden is the lessons that Jesus teaches. And knowing that when we put good into the world, when we're obeying his word and doing what is right in the eyes of the Lord, even if it's hard, even if it sucks, and being that light, being that person to plant the seeds, and it's going to be offensive to some people. It's going to be very difficult, and there's going to be shame involved in doing so. But when we do that, we're able to get good seeds. We're able to get good fruit and people who love each other. That's the hope anyway. That's what we hope, right? I don't know if it's true in practice, because I am somebody, I make lots of mistakes and I am judgmental, and I'm not somebody yet who goes and speaks against the narrative right now, what's going on. I'm just here in my garden enjoying what the Lord is bringing to me in my life, and me trying to understand that, right? Excuse me, sorry. I'm so sorry. That was gross. But I was explaining this to my husband, and he had said, oh, I just read something in Luke, and it's about when we clean things out. So I shared him the passage that I shared to you, and he's like, there's a passage in Luke where there's a maintenance that's involved. So once we take away the things that are not serving us, that in this case it was a weed, but in our own lives, in our spiritual lives, in our spiritual practice, it's the demons. So if we remove that from our lives, we must, and we clean it all out, so take all the weeds out of my garden, that must be then maintained, because if not, they're going to come back and they're going to be in multitude once again. And this passage here in Luke 11 says something very similar. When an unclean spirit goes out of a man, he goes through dry places seeking rest. So he's trying to find somewhere to rest, somewhere to be, that spirit, and then he has nowhere to go. So he comes back to his host, that person he was originally with, and finds, oh, the place is clean, the floors are swept, I can come here, and I'm going to bring my friends. And that happens to people quite often, where they're doing good and then it comes back tenfold. I can say this with myself with addiction, where when I tried to quit the first time, it was relatively easy. But then when I started drinking again and smoking again, it was instantly drinking a bottle of wine, smoking a pack of cigarettes really quickly, opposed to this slow, gradual increase where when I first started smoking, I'd smoke half a cigarette and it would be okay. And then it took me a long time to smoke a couple cigarettes a day and then to a pack a day. But then when I quit and started smoking again, it was like boom, instantly. And yes, that's the cycle of dopamine, that's the familiarity of it, but it's the same with demons coming into our lives. And I don't know if I'm fully familiar with it yet. Maybe if I took a little bit more reflection on my life, I could see a lot more of that. But it's something that I need to be weary of and have this teaching of my garden and of Jesus saying to me, okay, you're cleaned out. And I have been. I have worked really hard, and I have had a really tough time not wanting to smoke cigarettes now that I'm not pregnant. I'm like, I want to smoke cigarettes. And she was born in November, New Year's time. I did start smoking, and it was really hard. And I'm like, okay, I need to stop. I need to stop right now. Same with drinking. And it's something that I cannot participate in because I've worked so hard to be out of that cycle of addiction, and I need to do that for my family, for me. And knowing that that temptation, those spirits, they will always come back. My nicotine demons, they will always come back to haunt me. And I just gotta make sure that I keep telling myself I am cleaned out of that. I've done the work, and I do not want to invite that back into my life. So she's getting up, and I think I'm going to just do a little bit of walking around. But if you made it this far, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye.